Welcome to Defcon 3. I'm KT McFarland. ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, is on the march again. They've just seized the largest dam in Iraq, and they've seized several oil fields in northern Iraq, challenging the Kurdish region. So talking to us to make a little sense of where ISIS is going and what does all this mean to us are two gentlemen we've had here in the past. Colonel Kirk Lippold, he's a retired Navy commander and former captain of the USS Cole, and Colonel Cedric Leighton, former Air Force analyst at the Pentagon. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Let me turn to you first. Commander, what's happening? Who is ISIS, and how are they able to do this, and what is their goal, particularly in the north?
Well, I think what you saw, KT, was a large swath taken in both Syria and especially in Iraq as the ISIS made strategic gains in the area militarily. Then you had them slightly pause a little bit, consolidate those gains, make sure that they had the material, the equipment, and the men. They wanted to make sure they held the strategic high ground in a number of areas. And then what you're seeing now is they're going to see small areas where they can reach out, take cities, take facilities, because their long-term objective is to bring the government in Baghdad down. In order to do that, they need to create areas of instability where they can make gains, like taking that dam, that is going to achieve the objective that they want to in the long run. They're consolidating right now. They're going to continue to push and press. They want to make sure that their style of government is imposed in the regions, especially as we've seen up in Mosul. But I think what you're seeing now is just the consolidation of their power. So,
Colonel Leighton, where does ISIS has declared itself a caliphate? Their leader has declared himself a caliph, and they're talking about world domination. Should we take these guys seriously?
Well, unfortunately, you have to. It sounds extreme, but sometimes the extremists have a way of actually realizing their dreams, as nefarious as those dreams are. And in this particular case, you've got ISIS that is actively threatening not only certain strategic areas or certain towns, but they're affecting the lifeblood of Iraq. Iraq has basically ceased to exist as a nation right now. So everything that's been done basically since the end of World War I in the creation of Iraq has all gone almost completely under the table. So what the ISIS folks are doing is they are actually strategically looking at the areas that they can control, and they seek to control them not only through military means, but also through coercive means such as the water supply. So when you look at the Mosul Dam as an example, you see them taking control of a major portion of the Euphrates and Tigris river system. And when you see that, it's part of a national strategy that they have, which involved taking control of other dams, such as the Haditha Dam, which is a lot closer to Baghdad, about 120 miles away from Baghdad. And that shows what they're trying to do. They're trying to, in essence, basically eliminate the water supply from Baghdad, starve out the population there, and make the government there fall. And when that government falls, then they will have not only a caliphate, but they will have a capital for that caliphate. And that's going to be a significant challenge to our foreign policy and to the foreign policies of all of our partners in the Middle East.
Commander Lippold, is this really boiling down to a fight between al-Qaeda on the one hand, or ISIS, and on the other hand, Iran and its allies in the region?
I don't think so. I don't think al-Qaeda is at a point strategically where they can exert the kind of influence that we saw when bin Laden was alive. However, they really are the only counter that could work against this, the ISIS and their leader al-Baghdadi. So I think that while you're seeing some tension between those two major groups, I don't believe that we are going to end up seeing the two of them fight it out in a manner. ISIS right now is the power broker. They've clearly made the strategic gains. They're in a position where while they can declare a caliphate, I don't think we're quite there yet. But again, worst case possibility, if they take down the government in Baghdad and start to really partition up Iraq even more than now, then you're going to see major problems throughout the region.
Okay, let me ask you, Colonel Leighton. I mean, people have said, well, who cares? You know, they've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We don't have a dog in this fight. Let them kill each other. Does that make sense?
Well, unfortunately, the dog that we have in the fight is called oil, and oil is basically the lifeblood of our civilization at this point in time. And so no matter what you think of these different groups, and they're all bad, like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and of course some of the governments involved as well, the problem that you have is you have to assure the world's oil supply. And even if the United States has completely eliminated its oil imports at some point in the near future, potentially, you will still have to assure the oil imports of Western Europe and of East Asia. And if those oil imports are not taken care of, if they're not assured, then you risk an amazing amount of economic instability all around the world, and the global effects of something like this would really make the Great Depression look like a small blip in history as opposed to a huge economic dislocation, which it really was. That kind of economic dislocation could severely impact our ability to carry out our lives, and we cannot afford that to happen at this point.
Commander, is this all about the oil?
I think that there is a large component that is oil-based, but right now I think that if you really saw the world's oil supply being threatened as ISIS were to consolidate power throughout the region, the world would react. We'd react militarily, and you would see a coalition of boots on the ground that I believe, quite honestly, when you put it together, would crush them. And I think that you would see support for that, not only through the region, but believe it or not, with Europe and the Far East countries providing support to do that.
Stay tuned. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Colonel Cedric Leighton and Commander Kirk Lippold. And that's it for Defcon 3.